Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. I'll tell you what, we got to that midweek and it was interesting the way the markets sort of shifted around a little bit, kind of choppy, tight range, that type of thing all over again. And it was in the last final 30 minutes of the trading session where we actually had our biggest moves of the day. You look at the Dow, it actually lost about 90 or so points to the downside, finished down on the day by about 70. Kind of a similar story with the NASDAQ, although it did finish positive, finished up about 18, 20 points to the upside, but there was some selling as well there in the final few minutes of the day, and actually about 50 points getting leaked out of the NASDAQ. So tight range, very, very tight range, not a whole lot of movement when we look at these markets, understandably so, as we're pushing and pressing right up against that S&P 500 records. You're looking at the NASDAQ near those records. Dow not that terribly far from record levels. So a lot really going on within the markets, and everybody sort of trying to anticipate exactly what the next big move is. We've had moves. We haven't had those big moves. Although if you go back to Friday and Monday, I guess you could say, well, you're down 500 one day, but you're up 500 the next. So it all just kind of got erased away. We had volatility trading somewhere between 1670 for the entire day, it felt like, and we actually finished the day, the volatility index, right around that 1660 sort of an area, or 1630 rather area. So right in between that range. And, you know, you look at the volumes continue to be very, very strong. The volumes yesterday, 35.3 million contracts. Again, we're getting to that mid 30s. It seems like that's where we're sort of finding ourselves. Yes, we have those huge days to the upside. We haven't had too many days, much less than about 34, 33 million contracts. Tesla yesterday, the big leader. Tesla stood out for sure. Nearly 2 million contracts in Tesla yesterday. Apple about 1.2 million contracts yesterday. And I'm going to point out one other one. There was only 3 in the million contract club, but Vale. Now Vale, we're talking about the mining stocks, all that type of thing. But take a look, and when you see that, you say, wow, what was going on, and why wasn't the Market Rebellion talking about it? Because the Market Rebellion is a lot smarter than that. That's why. 1 million contracts, yes, but what they were doing was something that people have done for many, many years, a lot of flipping of options. In other words, doing spreads and taking options and trying to capture dividends. And we call that the dividend style trade. Now, does it work? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's something that used to be kind of a floor trader type of a thing. Anyway, all that being said, even though there was 1 million contracts trading, it really didn't have anything to do with direction. It had to do with the possibility, I said again, the possibility of maybe capturing some of the dividend that you, if you do some of this flipping. Anyway, just wanted to point that out to you because that was the volume there, and a lot of people wondering probably, well, what was going on? Are they buying calls? Are they selling calls? Are they doing something on the put side? All those kinds of questions. No, this was a dividend style trade. Energy did sort of fade yesterday, and that was one of the storylines. We had talked about these ups and downs and these beta names for a while now. That's been sort of playing out. I mentioned Tesla. I'll tell you what, Tesla, yesterday we were talking about it, and we were talking about, as I look back to yesterday, stock makes a really nice move to the upside, actually on the day up more than 5%. We talked about that side of it, but also some monstrous options coming into Tesla as well, looking for more upside. Looks like they're getting some. We'll get into that in a second. We'll talk about that when we talk about today. Twitter up about 4% also. Another name that had some huge option paper that was flowing into Twitter as well. So that combination, and then you look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin really having a lot of volatility involved, much more so than we had for a little while. We got a little stagnant, then we got that push to the downside, pushed underneath 30,000. Here we are now trading, give or take, call it about 34,000 on Bitcoin, something that we've been keeping a close eye on, and it's had some definite movements. So there's no doubt about that. The volatility there definitely stepping up after being in sort of a tighter range for a while, but 34,000 is where we find ourselves there. Now you shift into today. We're looking at the Dow early on up, call it about 190 points or thereabouts. You had about NASDAQ up about 90 points, both of them moving in concert together. We weren't seeing that divergence that we sometimes see. Get into the opening, we're up 200 on the Dow. You look over at the NASDAQ, it's up about 100. The NASDAQ just keeps on kind of chopping wood to the upside. Last I looked, the NASDAQ just minutes ago, trading up about 125 points to the upside. You look over at the Dow, that's continued to make this move as well. And the last I looked, we're pushing closer and closer to up about 300 points. We'll see. It was up 250 around 9 o'clock, about 290 just a little while ago. So a nice push to the upside. The backdrop, it's about this economic data. It's also about infrastructure. A lot of folks really focusing on infrastructure, these meetings that are going on, all the conversations there. We did see crude with a little bit of a dip today underneath that 73. We'll see if it can recapture that. We got the full day nearly in front of us for that to happen. Volatility just keeps on getting slammed. We mentioned sort of a tight range, 1670. We finished right around 1630 thereabouts. Today, now we're in the mid-15s, 1550-ish, down about 5%. Again, a nice move in terms of volatility, not that terribly far off the lows that we've been talking about. We set some new lows not too long ago, just some low 15s that we had seen. So we aren't that terribly far away from that either. Now, what's really some of the storylines, one of the big movers of the day? Take a look at Eli Lilly, up 9 to 10%, somewhere in that range. A really sharp move to the upside. Why is that? Well, they are putting in for that same sort of a process that we've seen going on with Biogen, where they're looking for the approval process, and they applied for this, that accelerated approval process. That's certainly huge for that name. Big move when you talk about Eli Lilly going up 9%. That does not happen all that terribly often. I'll tell you what, you know who's not really feeling the love right now is Biogen. Biogen, last I looked, was down about 5%, possibly on this news, as they were the ones who actually were they had that approval, and that really did give that stock a huge move to the upside. I mean, a massive move to the upside, and it's pulled back a little bit from those highs that had hit. Tesla. I mentioned Tesla. I mentioned all of the option activity that we had seen in there yesterday, and I'm talking some absolutely huge, massive trades, bullish trades to the upside. The last I looked, Tesla had peaked out at about 684, a huge number. It's the highest levels that we'd seen in there since, I think, going back probably to early May, there somewhere thereabouts, but a really sharp, strong move to the upside following all that gigantic paper. The interesting thing, looking at the Dow, we're up close to 300 points. There is one name that is in the red. It's Walgreens, and Walgreens is the only name that's hanging out in the red. We'll see if that's something that persists for the entire day, but at least early on, that's what we're seeing. Healthcare, one of the leaders right out of the gate, obviously Lilly, but with about a 1% move to the upside. Consumer discretion and tech, that's what's really propelling right now. That NASDAQ, that big sharp move, 125 points to the upside. You're seeing that area really making a nice move, and throw in the fact that the semiconductors look very, very strong as well, up about 1.25%. Got a couple of unusuals. Now, if you look today, and I just gotten off the phone with some folks on Wall Street, we were talking about this. I'm looking through the unusual option activity. It is almost 100%, not 100%, but very, very close. They're either buying June 25 expiring. Yeah, today's June 24th. They're either buying tomorrow's expiring options, or this unusual that we are seeing is going to July 2nd expiring options. That's it. That's what we're seeing. But we have a couple that are out there in actual July expiration, just a couple, but it feels like everything is just ultra, ultra, ultra short term, and it is. So I'm going to start with one of those rebel names. Bed Bath & Beyond, BBBY. Now this one's pretty interesting, trading about 31.5. We got some buyers. This was the first unusual of the day today. 5,800 of tomorrow's expiring 33 calls. Those are going for about 34 cents up to about 78 cents. What makes this so interesting is this is one of those rebel names where they're looking at the short interest, they're tactically attacking, and we'll see if that's able to be accomplished in just the, it has to happen before tomorrow, but tomorrow's expiration. It has, so they have got 2 days, all of today and tomorrow for this to play out. We'll see if that what happens. As I say, stock was about 31.5. My second one, XL. Now, XL Group, we're talking about this whole hybrid electric drive systems and all of that. Stock is very dollar-wise inexpensive, trading right around $9, right in that sort of category. This is one of them. I said there was a couple. This is one of them that actually you get July for this to play out. So the July 11 calls, about 8,400 of those, they were going for 29 cents all the way up to about 60 cents. It's really interesting to see this. It's got time. It's not expiring tomorrow. It's not even expiring July 2nd. This is one of those that actually went the full expiration of July. Still not that long term. I mean, when we're looking at this one, for me, it actually started to feel like, wow, they're really going out there. But the reality is they aren't going out to August, September, and they're not going to December, not January. They're going to July. So it is still a very, very tight time frame that we've got in front of us right now. Very inexpensive options. We'll see if that plays out as well. A lot of these rebel stocks hitting today, a lot of those very high short interest names, we are seeing a lot of activity in those names, and most, if not all, is extremely short term. Folks, I tell you what, get educated. You're going to want to be educated because the derivatives markets is the place to be. You heard me talk about 35 million contracts. It just continues each and every day, and it just seems to build and get a little bit stronger. If you have the knowledge, you have a much better opportunity to have some success. I'm Pete Najarian. We'll see you tomorrow.